I said, what's that? He goes, it's Coke. Do you want to try it? And I go, yeah, definitely. And he handed me a straw. And that was the end of me. He did a couple of lines, and that was it. The first time I met you actually was with Little Joe by the pizzeria. That was wrote in the book that I was shaking down the pizza guy. I don't remember.
You didn't pay. It's just like shaking the guy down.
Tony, that was Tony.
Yes, yeah. Tony's
the pizza.
Yeah.
Then I corrupted you because then the next day we went and I got you out of work to go to the beach and you never went back to the job.
Legitimate kid I could have been. So you're the ruination.
Yeah, but you had a cane.
Because I got hurt on the job.
And then we had the fight in that barn. You broke the guy's windows with your cane. You remember that?
Yeah. I didn't like being abused.
Well, he fought with us. That was on the video in that part.
You started that fight. It was over a picture of beer. I never forget it.
Right.
Over a picture of beer.
Yeah.
He spilled the picture of beer when he was handing it to you. And then you started doing something, and then I went wild.
Yeah. And then you broke the windows.
And your father, I think the guy went to your father.
Probably did everything.
Yeah.
And that was the beginning of our relationship.
And then the first time we went on the lam was your father, when the guy got stabbed in Nichols Inn.
You know, no, not Nichols Inn.
Yes.
The guy got stabbed by the club.
The
motorcycle guy.
No,
that's right.
The first
time
right
on Fulton Street.
We went to Florida.
I was flying out, what's her name, that girl?
We don't need any name. We don't want to get these girls in trouble right now.
She's an old lady now. Yeah. She's a grandmother. Yeah, Nichols Inn on Fulton Street.
Exactly.
That's right. And then we were hanging out by the 93 Club at night, and that was after with bright numbers and all that belonging. They were going to the Raven night.
Matter of fact, now that you mention it, we were partners with the number business.
With her?
Yeah. I still never got my money. So now that you might be making some, just remember that, okay?
Yeah, and then what happened? Then we were all in 93 Club that night. And I left, of course, with a girl, and I went to the Surfside 3 motel, and you were supposed to meet me, and you never showed up.
Well, it was hard.
And then I found out the guy got killed on Atlantic Avenue, and they were looking for you and Little Joe. And then I told my father, and then we rounded you up, and you just went on the land.
Yeah.
Where'd you go first?
I think Joey Tamburo, up in Flushing.
That's that first time. Wow.
Yeah, Mikey T's brother.
Weren't you in the Bronx too?
That was later on.
I remember.
That was later on.
I got drunk and I crashed my.
Yeah.
That's the day I stole my mother's car.
We were in Mikey T's brother's apartment. Then I think he couldn't handle us anymore. It was he was married, but that's where he used to meet his girlfriend, so that's where he used to bring her. So we were there first, and then we went to upstate, to Leeds.
You went to upstate, then to the
Leeds or Leeds.
That was Happy Mayone's girlfriend. There was bodies buried up there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hershey.
Well, they didn't ask us to dig up anything.
Remember Hershey?
They didn't ask us to deliver. They didn't ask us to dig up anything.
Yeah.
So,
and then we just go.
And then that's the bad part, because that's when you started coming up and corrupting us.
Cool.
Me and Little Joe were pretty good kids at that time.
Yeah, because up to that,
I don't know about good kids, but
up to them we were living good. So, and then we started going to the Copa, getting dressed up right. The Copa, the Limehouse. We had fun.
Yeah, we did.
House,
I'm not saying we did.
The Fudge Factory. Remember the Fudge Factory?
All of that there.
The Hippo.
That was before the case.
Oh yeah, way before.
That was in '72.
Yeah, that's because I'm going to tell you why. Because in '72, when my father went into the music business with Jay and the Americans, they took me to Puerto Rico with Sonny, Tony Lee's cousin. Remember Sonny?
Yeah.
He was the first guy that they made. One of the first guys that Paul Castellano straightened out.
I like Sonny.
Me too. We went to Puerto Rico with Jay, and Jay had a big suite. And every night he used to sing opera before he went on stage to warm up his voice. And all the girls were there, all the groupies, and they would drink wine and smoke weed. And I went up there one night and drinking wine, smoking weed with the groupies, and Jay singing opera. And then the third night I went up there, I walked in and they were at a table just like this. And I walked up to the table and there was white powder on the table. It was 1972, I was 19. And I walked up there and this guy, Kenny Vance, he was one of the original Americans. I said, what's that? He goes, it's Coke. Coke, you want to try it? And I go, yeah, definitely. And he handed me a straw. And that was the end of me. He did a couple of lines, and that was it. But everybody was doing it. They were all doing it then. In the city. Then I took a package back, and I turned, yeah, you were new, Joe.
Yeah, so this is the thought I'm having though. Here we are on the land, we're confined into a certain place where we can't go no place, because we have to hide out. And then you give us drugs that's gonna make us wanna go out.
Well, I know. Joseph didn't want to do it at first, remember? He said, I don't want that shit. He goes, no, you got to try this. It's good. You know, when I know I'm jumping ahead, but when I got clean and I started doing step work and I had to do my 8th and 9th step, I went to his grave and I made amends to a tombstone.
Well, you never made amends to me.
Oh, you're still alive. And then I started, and then I turned this all on, and then the rest is history.
Yeah.
But it was still recreational then, but everybody was doing it.
Yeah.
In the hippo.
Because it was the disc.
Then I used to go home. My father used to go, were you out last night sticking that shit up your nose? And I go, who told you? The guy that was standing in the booth next to me? That's right, them son of a bees. I know who they are. I said, everybody's doing it.
But I got more involved in it later on when I started going to Mulberry Street. Wow. And the crap game.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've been hanging out with those guys. I thought as a tough guy.
On Hot Street, I worked in that crap game too.
You weren't supposed to do drugs.
No. But they were all blowing.
That's what I'm saying. So that's how I seen it. So I figured if these guys were around, like Charlie West, because I was hanging out in Charlie West's club.
Yeah, on Mott Street. On Mott Street.
And all of these guys were doing coke. Then I figured, okay, that's what tough guys do now. Because I never seen it with Jeannie or Nikki or them or your dad. No. Or,
they were drinkers.
Exactly. So that's what turned
Most
me
they working in the crap. That's why today, you know, I was having a conversation today with the guys. What's the kids in the mob doing today? I go, I don't know what they're doing. When we were kids, we worked in dice games, poker games. We wrote numbers. We sold swears. We did everything.
Yeah. Hey, did you like that last video, or you like this one too?